everyone, it's Jake at Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well, and welcome to episode 59 of my Metal Vault, where I will be exploring and showing you my favourite albums within heavy metal to thrash metal to death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all of that excellent stuff. As well as talking about the albums, I will also be talking about the bands, so a brief history and any releases leading up to the album that I have picked. And I do have the fan on off screen because it's quite warm here at the moment here in the UK, and it's very warm in my room. So yeah, gotta keep cool. But I got myself a beverage as well, so it's all good. Now, this album, of course, was going to be on this series. It was gonna make an appearance at some point. It has been on the channel before because I've talked about it before, because it's been one of my favorite death metal albums for a very long time. And I know I say this a lot, but a lot of you veterans out there are going to know this band. You're going to know this album. You're going to know the album before that. You're going to know the albums after that. But for anyone brand new, here is a new band for you. Malevolent Creation. And what a band they are. I've only got to see them once, and that was in 2015 with Grave at the Underworld in London. So whoever is watching this now and was there, be cool to hit you down in the comments and tell me what you thought of the show. And yeah, this band right here, got to see him again. And well, without further ado, let's crack on with the album that I have for you this evening or this morning, wherever you are. Once again, Malevolent Creation, and this is their 1992 album and one of my all-time favorites, Retribution. Of course, another Dan Seagrave artwork right there. Absolutely amazing. Favorite logo of mine as well. Of course, released by Road Runner Records, or at the time, Road Racer Records. There's all the guys on the back. Very, very much just proper old school. Let's get the book out so you can see the artwork. But before that, let's see the CD. Black and a bit of purplish pink right there. And then the artwork again, once again, by Dan Seagrave, known for doing a lot of artwork for a lot of bands, be it death metal or thrash, but primarily death metal. Of course, the guys on the back again. And on, well, and inside the book, just the lyrics right here, which is really cool. Man, what an album, what a band. Like I said, song back in 2015. Of course, that was 3 years before Brett Hoffman, who was the lead vocalist of the band right there, before he passed away back in 2018. His legacy lives on pretty much all the albums he was on in this band. Yeah, just, heartbreaking when someone in the metal scene passes away. But like I said before, the legacy lives on. And his vocals on this are amazing, but I will get into that once I talk about the album and the songs. But let's talk about the band first. So Malevolent Creation, formed in Buffalo, New York. Well, they formed under a different name in 1986 called Rest Haven. And I think that was more on the thrash side than the death side. But then in 1987 changed it to Malevolent Creation, and are still active to this day. And of course, the only original member left in that band is Phil on guitar. And all the other members are since brand new, because the bass player on pretty much all their albums has since left, whereas Jason, the man himself, And I think he's the only one I actually got to chat with when I saw him in 2015 in London. Oh, we'll get a bit of a... So, yeah, let's crack on with the band themselves. Later on in the career, they did relocate to Fort Lauderdale in Florida. But before that, they were still pretty much in Buffalo, New York, which is where Cannibal Corpse is from. They have 4 demos out before their first 2 albums. So let's get on to that. So the first one's just called Demo from 1987. And I have actually heard the demo stuff, and Brett's vocals are a lot different on the demos than you would hear on the albums. Bit more on the thrashier side than the more sort of death thrashier side, if you want to go there. Because his vocals were cross between thrash and death, but very much powerful stuff right there. So that was their first demo, of course, an independent release, and then they released 2 demos in 1989. One was a live demo, of course, independent release. Don't know what day or month these were released. In the first one, don't know when the date or month was. Obviously, they got the year, but not a clue on that. You know, usually will tell you, like, if they just got the date, like the month or the whole thing, but nothing there, just says 1987 and 1989. Then they released their second demo, which was released on the 6th of June 1989. Of course, again, an independent release. Quick note on that, 6th of June. Well, because a year later on that day, the 6th of June, but in 1919, My Dying Bride formed. Just a little bit of trivia for you there. And then they released their last demo in 1990, another independent release just called Demo 1990. That was the 18th of April 1990. And then they did a split in 1991 with Heathen, Heads Up, and Sepultura, which was released on Roadrunner Records, so they would have been added to Roadrunner at that point. And then that gets into their debut album, of course, another monster of an album, The 10 Commandments, released on the 24th of April 1991 on RC Records, which I think is no longer going, but I think that was, yeah. So partner label would be Road Racer Records. But yeah, this album, 10 Commandments, absolutely brilliant, which then goes on to, so that was released 91. So a year later, on the 1st of April 1992, we got this. And love this album. I was like, I got to feature this on the series. I got to listen to it again, and my God, it still holds up today. You know, 1992. It's 2024, so this is 32 years old now. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, who appeared or who did what on the album? So, we got Mark, who did engineering assistant, Scott Burns produced engineering mixing, Dan Seagrave, as I mentioned, did the amazing artwork right there. Big Jeff for the logo, who is in a band called Let the Night Roar, and was the lead guitarist in 1991 on their first album. The more you know. And I think his brother is not doing any more bands, but he has a brother who was, I think the band was called, I'm not going to try and say it, but yeah, he has a brother who is also a musician. Logo, obviously Jason, I'm not going to try and say his last name, but he's the bass player. He's no longer in the band. He left back in 2016, so I saw him before he left the band, but he was vocalist from 95 to 97 when Brett left. For I'm not sure when he left. I have to look that up so we can see the time frame. For for the photographs, that was Mark Douglas, who's done stuff for Monstrosity and obviously Solstice's debut. We got Mike Fuller, who was did say earlier, mastering of the album, as well as done Cannibal Corpse Vile album, mastered that. Focus by Cynic, Leprosy and Human by Death, Legion by Deicide, Slaughter in the Vatican by Exorder, as well as countless others. Disincarnate by Loud Blast, awesome band, check him out. As tons of others he's done as well. And of course, Mark again, who did the assistant engineering for this one and their 95 released Eternal, which Jason would have done vocals on. And that's who was, photographs, recording, mixing, mastering. But on the album itself, we got, of course, Brett Hoffman, Phil. I don't want to try and say his last name because I've been trying to say it before. But yeah, Phil, Rob Barrett, of course, right here. Went on to join Cannibal Corpse later on. It's now still currently in Cannibal Corpse today. Jason on the bass, and then of course one of my favorite drummers of all time, Alex Marquez. And I believe this was the only one he did with him. No, he did Stillborn as well. So he did 2 albums with these guys. But his drumming on this is just immaculate. For guest musicians, it's the one and only master of the shred. One of many, but he deserves that title, Mr. James Murphy, doing guest guitars on track number 4, and that will take me into the tracks in a minute. But Rob Barrett, of course, still in Cannibal Corpse. He was in Eulogy. Solstice, no longer in Solstice, but has done in very many other bands since. Obviously rejoined Cannibal Corpse in 2005. Phil is still currently in Malevolent Creation, but he has a band called Hate Plow. And of course, the legend that is Brett Hoffman sadly died, like I said, in 2018 of colon cancer, but had other bands as well as Malevolent Creation. So Down the Drain, Fire for Effort, and Silent Death, as well as done guest stuff for 4 other bands, which I don't recognize. But yeah, now let's get on to the songs. So the songs now, so I've got the sound up as usual. So we get one hell of an intro with the first track, which builds up to the song itself. That's Eve of the Apocalypse. If you heard the song, you know what I'm on about. But to all you brand new fans who are looking for more death metal fans, or you're just getting in death metal and you're trying to find a new band, I highly recommend Malevolent Creation, and do check this one out. Eve of the Apocalypse just absolutely kills it, just starts it off strong, which then goes into one hell of a banger of a tune, systematic execution, and bringing more brutality, just continuing on from the first track, which then goes into Slaughter of Innocence, which some of it can be a bit mid-tempo, but it's fast as hell, this album, and that song definitely. And the song that got me into this band and made me want to buy the album is Coronation of Our Domain, which obviously has guest lead guitars by the master that is James Murphy. And because you get his solo, and I'm trying to remember who did lead guitars on here. It might have been Phil, it might have been Rob. Either way, you get James solo, and then you get one of those 2 guys with their solos. And obviously Brett Hoffman's scream just before that solo. And then No Flesh Shall Be Spared. Just continuing off where Coronation of Our Domain left off. And killer track, killer tune. All the guitars, the bass, the drumming, the vocals, all just complement each other. Then The Coldest Survival just again, I know I said it's not, but it's just every song seems to continue on, but they always seem to add something else. So it might be like it's still adding on the brutality, but it might be sometimes a bit mid-tempo right here. And then you get into the one that's just full on in your face. Monster. Love that. Love that song. Love this song. Obviously, I've got my favorite track on there, but this is just one of many. And then it then goes into Mind Lock, continuing on from Monster with that same level of aggression. And then to finish it all off, to finish off this masterpiece of an album, you got Iced. So 9 tracks, 34 minutes and 9 seconds of absolute amazing, excellent old school death metal. And yeah, like I was talking about the like the drummer, Alex's drumming. There's a reason why he's one of my favorites, because he's the absolute beast behind the drums. Same with Gene Hoglan, who has been in various thrash and death metal bands over the years. Of course, Alex Marquez has been in tons of death metal bands, of course. Click on him a minute, because he is still in Solstice. He's in a band called Murder Suicide and Create a Kill, which I've not checked those bands out. He did play drums for Brutality only in 2015. Played drums for Cephalic Carnage. Demolition Hammer for a year, so he was only on their first album, Time Bomb. Of course, Malevolent Creation from 92 to 94. Resurrection on Embalmed Existence, because their drummer couldn't do the recording, so he stepped in. And his drumming on that is awesome. You haven't heard it? Check it out. Just check it out. And of course, I've mentioned it here. And he's done live stuff with Righteous Pigs, which I don't think are still going anymore. No, they've split up in 2013. Sorry. And Pessimist. I think that's how that band name was pronounced. And did guest stuff for Abysmal, Combat, and of course James Murphy I mentioned before, and his band Disincarnate, which I'm still trying to find their album Dreams of the Carrion Kind. He was on a 92 demo, and of course there was a split with Gorguts and Disincarnate. But he's on the demo Soul Erosion. So yeah, that's Alex Marquez for you. Beast on the drums. Of course, Brett Hoffman's vocals very much just in your face, nasty, raspy vocals, because a lot of death metal bands would just go to like the more lower guttural stuff or growls. He did like growls and thrashy-esque screams as well, like thrashy-esque vocals. So think like the more aggressive stuff like Sodom and Creator. Those bands like the German thrash metal scene. So think more on that. But his vocals blend very well on pretty much all the albums he was on. But yeah, I'm trying to remember when he first left. Oh, he left in 93, so that would have been after Stillborn. He didn't come back until 98 with the album The Fine Art of Murder. And of course, the last one he did was Dead Man's Path in 2015, which is a cool album in of itself. But as soon as you hear Brett Hoffman's vocals, you know what's coming. Same with Rob and Phil and Jason. Just sheer amount of brutality, sheer amount of musicianship. These guys made an excellent album, and I tip my hat to them. And cheers to them. But yeah, like I said, Brett Hoffman passed away. But hearing his vocals on this is just like, it gave me a chill, because it's just, there's a reason why he's one of my favorite vocalists ever. Because he brought that aggression, be it on record or live. Because when I saw him in 2015, that would have been when Dead Man's Path was out. I clearly remember this. I was at the front. They did play Eve of the Apocalypse and Systematic Execution, Coronation of Our Domain. Like, my favorite songs on there would be Monster and tracks 1 through 4. But the whole album itself just absolutely sick. And yeah, Brett Hoffman kneeled down for, but put his fist down. I gave him a fist bump, which was just absolutely amazing. And I wish I got to see Malevolent Creation more with Brett with Brett Hoffman on the vocals, but of course he was taken away from us. But he lives on this. Same with, like I've said about Chuck and countless other musicians on there. Dio, the legend that he is. But for any of you death metal heads out there and you're looking for a new album, you might be like, oh, I only like it when it's like low and guttural. It's like, then this might not be for you. If you're more into like your brutal slamming stuff, you're not gonna like this at all. If you're more into your old school death metal, you are going to love the hell out of this. I I mean, that artwork is amazing. One of my favorite pieces of artwork that Dan Seagrave has ever done. Just sheer amount of detail on this dude. And of course, you look closer there, there's that guy right there. And again, all the musicians complement each other. James' guest solo on Coronation of Our Domain is just a cool little part before the song ends, because you got his solo and the solo after that, but end that off. But the whole album itself, sheer amount of aggression. And I'll show the band picture again. So we got Brett Hoffman there, got Jason here, Rod there, Phil there, and Alex there. So Brett, Jason, Rob, Phil, Alex. And of course, around this time, they would have been on tour with Cannibal Corpse, who also released an album that year, Tomb of the Mutilated. And yeah, with Obituary and Agnostic Front, because Obituary released an album that year as well, The Incomplete. But I thought I'm going to talk about this one because I don't think very many people talk about this specific album by Malevolent Creation or just talk about it in general. But I thought, you know what? It's going on my Metal Vault series. Why? And I'll tell you why, because it's coming to that overall conclusions of the albums that I say. So it's heavy, it's aggressive, it's brutal, but not in the sense of brutal death metal or slamming death metal. It's brutal because just this sheer amount of heaviness behind it. And you know, the guitar work, the bass work, the drumming, the vocals all complement each other. Same with all the other albums that I've mentioned. Most importantly, the all important word is it is a timeless masterpiece, and it holds up 32 years later. Because, like I said, it was released on the 1st of April 1992. So this year it would have turned 32 years old. And it's my favorite Malevolent Creation album. Man, just so much. Just, man, love my old school death metal. You know me, if you've watched my channel for a long time, you know what genre of death metal I like the most. I do like my brutal death still. I still like some slam. I still like some tech death, but not as much as I do with old school stuff. So recommend me more stuff like this, be it a new modern band with that old school sound. I'm all over it. With brutal death is I don't know, it's got to have something completely completely unique for me to listen to it. I mean, if there's something unique in old school sounding death metal bands, I'm all over it as well, because obviously I love old school more. You veterans, you know this album, but if you know anyone who, and you talk, well, if you're at a show and someone asks about Malevolent Creations, like, and you guys recommend this to them first, hell yeah, recommend them this first. and then maybe also tell them about their debut, the Ten Commandments. But definitely, I would say start with this one. Or if you want to do it from the very beginning and start with their debut, or if you're already familiar with them and you started with Stillborn, then yeah, up to you where you start. It's just me personally, and maybe some others who are watching this, I would start with this one because it's just heavy and has so much aggression on it. And of course, a timeless masterpiece, very much so. Like all the other albums that I've mentioned, they're timeless masterpieces to me. And they'll probably be timeless masterpieces to a lot of you. And I'm hoping this is one of them. Very cool album. Very cool album artwork. Very heavy, aggressive, in your face, old school death metal, like old school gold right here. Old school death metal gold right here. And once again, we'll say rest in peace to Brett. He was taken too soon. But his aggression, but his legacy and his aggressive vocal style lives on. Definitely. And to me, this is some of his best work. So once again, Malevolent Creation and Retribution. And that's it for another episode of my Metal Vaults. Got a lot more albums similar to this that I want to show here. Going to keep looking through that album collection in my cupboard, all the CDs, the vinyl, the cassettes, because there's still a lot there I need to show, be it from the 90s or the 80s, even the early 2000s. I have mentioned albums from the 70s. Of course, some bands like from back then would have had that heavy metal sound to them, but wouldn't class as heavy metal. But of course, the genre I'll be showing the most here, obviously, you know, is going to be death metal. And I thought I cannot do this series without mentioning this beast of an album. Just couldn't. And very many other albums as well. And I hope those who are brand new, and I forgot to say this earlier, if you're new to my channel, welcome to my channel, this series. Be sure to check out my other videos. And for this video, don't forget to like it, share it around, comment down below. What was the first Malevolent Creation album you heard? What was your first live experience like when you saw him? What year was it? If you can remember that far back ahead, that far back even. What would you say your favorite songs by Malevolent Creation are? It doesn't have to necessarily be from this album. It can be from the first album, from the third album, or from the later albums, which whatever era of Malevolent Creation you prefer. But I love this album because it's just aggressive and heavy as hell. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with everything that I got coming up. More videos like this, more My Metal Vault, favorite death metal albums. Still got to do my favorite metal underground releases. Of course, more chats I need to sort out as well because I'm going to start messaging some more guests, but I haven't had time to message a lot of them because I've been busy as hell with obviously the festival I was at, volunteering, and then I was going to go off to another festival in the Netherlands next week. Went and saw my girlfriend Wednesday. I'm seeing her again tomorrow. So got that tomorrow. So for the videos for the next one, which of course the next band I've already written down, album, don't know which one I'm talking about yet. Or I might just talk about them both because I don't know which one to talk about. I'll probably do that either when I get back from the Netherlands or when I get back from Bloodstock. I'm not sure yet, but I will be making more videos either before or after I come back. So I might be able to get one video out before I have to go off to before I go off to the next festival that I have planned. So I'd like to thank you all again for tuning in to this video and this series overall. I'm glad I started doing it so I can just show off all my favorite albums from heavy metal, thrash metal, death metal, black metal, doom metal. You know the drill when I say it at the start. It's not just those genres, it can be anything ranging from funeral doom to death doom to gore grind, death grind, grindcore, um, anything along those lines. And just means a lot. Thank you for all the support. I've been Jacob Jake's Metal Chat. Keep that banner of metal well and truly high, and I will see you all again in another episode of my Metal Vault.